C3. It's Run DMC Lovato.
What's up, Tyler?
Long time since I've called, but I just wanted to talk about some signings real quick and how I think it fits or doesn't fit our defense. So, Von Bell, I love the player. I love the price we got him at. But it's just weird to me with Xavier Woods, Von Bell, and now Jeremy Chinn. If we are running a base 3-4, I just don't know where you're going to be able to put Jeremy if he's not strong safety or free safety. Which I don't really like him at free safety. I want him at strong safety, but Von Bell is purely a box strong safety. So I don't want him playing inside linebacker. I don't in a 4-3 he'd be fine as a linebacker. He can play outside linebacker, but in a 3-4, I don't want him playing inside linebacker. I guess he could play in the slot. I don't know. I love the player. I love the price we got him at for Von Bell. I just don't know how it really fits well. And another signing, Shy Tuttle. So I really want Derek Brown to be able to be a defensive end and not a defensive tackle. I think if he was at a 3-4 end, he would be able to get a ton more pass rush opportunities. And Shy Tuttle isn't a pass rusher. He's purely run defense. But people are saying he's not a nose, so he's just a defensive end. So does this mean that Derek Brown is our defensive tackle, and then is he going to be our nose? Like, I want him being a defensive end and getting way more opportunities for rush the passer. What do you guys think?
I love that. Tyler, awesome
start
call.
McCall.
I mean, I think wouldn't you put Shy Tuttle on the inside now? I mean, I would rather put Derek Brown in pass rushing scenarios more than I would Shy
Tuttle.
Tuttle.
Three of them. There's three of them. There's going to be the nose, right? And then the two ends.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have the two linebackers, right? The two outside linebackers. Is that right? Is that how it goes?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
is that you could have Tuttle, McCall, and Brown and Brian Burns all out there and another guy.
I don't know, man.
They just wouldn't have their hand in the dirt. There were only three with their hand in the dirt.
The more
I don't know. That's a great question. He does
on,
bring up a good point here is that, like, while we like these players, they're good players in the league. How do they fit into the defense? And we, at this point, we have to kind of trust that Evero has a plan for Jeremy Chinn. Because wouldn't that be one of the saddest kind of stories to a Panther player as we have hung on to Shaq Thompson at every fucking turn for anything, any little semblance of production. This second round pick was freaking awesome for 2 years, had a tough season last, just not a memorable season under a crazy regime of Matt Rule. It would just be really weird and strange for Jeremy Chinn not to be a star on this player next year on this team.
Well, but he does raise a good point. Von Bell primarily plays box safety inside the box.
Yeah.
And that's what Jeremy Chinn would do. So there's been this conundrum around Jeremy Chinn for a while now where Panther coaches and even Panther fans don't really know where best to fit him. A lot of fans have been chanting forever, including in our chat room, to move Jeremy Chinn to linebacker. But we're wondering, like, okay, what is he going to be, an inside linebacker in a 3-4? Maybe he's capable of doing that. In fact, I don't doubt him. I don't doubt that he could do something like that. But I also don't know if he has enough of a pass rushing pedigree to play an outside linebacker either. And if you want
Luvu's more suited for that than
Chinn and is. If you want to say that Jeremy Chinn, there's this notion that he has some liabilities and coverage. Well, if that's the case, do you really want to put him at free safety? I don't know.
I don't think he's fast enough to play
Jeremy
free.
Chinn is going to be an interesting player for us to follow going forward.
Yes,
because we really don't know what his future on our defense is.
That's what I'm talking about. And wouldn't it be a bizarre story twist if it was that future really didn't involve him? Imagine that. Is that like as we're like, and I hope it does. He's like been one of my favorite
Well, you have
players.
to play him. He's too talented to not play.
I know,
Unless
but
you're
like,
talking about trading him.
right. What if that? I mean, I know it's early. I mean, I'm not saying that. It's just it doesn't. Chinn seemed like a guy 3 years ago when after his rookie season, and really I think his sophomore season too, that you were ready to build a defense around him. I felt like he was going to blossom into a player that was an impact type player week in and week out, like a
Troy
Polamalu or a Ed Reed or somebody. And it doesn't matter that exact position. It's just a guy that you build around. It's like like an anchor of your defense, and it just doesn't feel like he's that anymore right now for the vision of the Panthers.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. And also, here I go, forming a connection to a guy on the roster who might not get a lot of playing time. I'm also wondering about Brandon Smith. What is his future? What is it? Because again, this is a guy who's 6'4", ran a 4.3. The dude is a physical freak. And I think that we would be wasting that kind of talent to not put him at inside linebacker. Let him fill the A gaps and B gaps. Let him funnel things to the outside. I like his long-term ability more than Shaq Thompson. And I know that we just re-signed Shaq Thompson, but even his future, I mean, I'm assuming that Shaq is just going to be an inside linebacker for us, but they have a lot of questions on defense that they're going to need to answer before the start of the season.
I do say, think of the speed on this defense. If you had Brian Burns on the field, you had Frankie Louvu on the field, Jeremy Chinn on the field, Brandon Smith on the field, Amari Barno on the field. Like the slowest person in the room is the free safety. It's kind of bizarre, right? Dude, the nice thing about the combine is we remembered Amari Barno. He's one of those players that you forgot about over the last 5 months or a year. And then in the combine, because he ran the fastest defensive end time, every time the defensive ends came up, they go, Amari Barno. So I was like, hey.
That's another guy that people were excited about. A lot of high-end physical profile, super fast around the edge. A lot of people still want to see what we have in Barno.
And I'll be interested too. Yeah. Another thing is to be kind of interested in how the Fitterer-Reich evaluation of players looks in contrast to the Matt Rule evaluation. So Matt Rule really stuck to the rack score a lot, right? Like it felt like it was like, let's get the best athlete out of the group, So the fact that you are a defensive end and you run so fast, it's like, oh shit, that's a crazy ass stat. And like when our analytics book right here, this makes this awesome, and this is like isn't that when they compile all of it called the rack score?
Relative athletic.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. And I felt like Rule was big on that. So I wonder, as we kind of like just make mental note of the new regime, the new tone and identity of Panthers, when we revisit this conversation a year from now, how many of those players that were developmental guys are going to be cast-offs, whether it be a Brandon Smith to an Amari Barno? Thinking back to the Ron Rivera time, remember when he got that dude, his dad used to come on the radio a lot in Charlotte. He was a defensive end out of Alabama, Christian, and he played. Do you remember him? He was the last year of the Rivera draft.
Oh yeah,
he was an Alabama defensive end. And his dad is like a preacher from South Carolina who would go on the radio or something. He used to be a former football player, I think.
Christian Miller.
Christian Miller. Thank you, Trey. Is that like his Christian Miller's career was over before it got started? He was in a lame duck regime and he got hurt. And so like, what is Frank Reich going to care about Amari Barno is what I'm saying.
I don't know. There's the hope. I mean,
Yeah,
I got
there is
faith in
that.
Barno. Yeah, Hey, I did want to say one thing. I was muted earlier. I was trying to get in when we were talking about it, but I was muted and didn't realize till later. The last time that we drafted a safety and moved him to a linebacker, it worked out pretty well for us. That's all I'm saying. And Jeremy Chinn is actually a bigger guy than Thomas Davis. He's 2 inches taller. He's about 10 pounds lighter, but he's 2 inches taller than Thomas Davis.
Well, when he was a rookie, I mean, that was the position that he played, and he was an incredible talent on the field when he was playing in that position. Like, I know he was
playing
versatile.
linebacker his first year.
He was playing a lot of different positions his first year.
The Buffalo nickel, like they tried to play Shaq Thompson when we got him.
Right.
Was Shaq Thompson a linebacker in college?
I don't know.
Remember, Shaq Thompson did a little bit of everything. He played safety, running back,
It's the same player. This is when I got, you know how I hold superstitious grudges, Cody? This is where when you say I don't like a tight end in the first round, I'm also underwhelmed when you guys tell me that the best thing that this player offers is their multi-tool thing. You guys said the same thing with Isaiah Simmons. They said that 6 years earlier with Shaq Thompson. That's why I bought his jersey. I bought all into that. It's like, oh, he could be all of these things. It's the next generation of football. And that's where we're at again.
Yeah. Well, you missed some.
Shaq Thompson was a running back too. He would not a running back, but he played both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they played him everywhere. They played him everywhere. It's like a adept at all, master of none. That kind of moniker. But I would agree. I would like to see him move to linebacker, see him be aggressive. But I don't know. Lots of pertinent questions facing this Panthers defense.
All right, next call.
What's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. Just wanted to call in here, and beautiful day in Charlotte. Crazy time in Panthers Nation right now. A lot of interesting, cool stuff happening. I really think Matt Rule was the whole problem to this. But anyways, it's time to get into who I believe will be the Panthers' choice at quarterback. Now, I'm just going to get it out of the way. You didn't trade up to one unless you knew who you wanted. And I think the Panthers are zoomed in on two specific guys, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. I don't really buy any of the rumors going around because they're all saying different stuff. Oh, the Panthers are zoomed in on CJ and Anthony Richardson, blah, blah, blah. That's all bullshit, okay? From who I've listened to and, talked to separately via DMs or whatnot, and from hearing Scott Fitter talk about this kid months ago, I truly believe the pick is going to be Bryce Young. And I know everyone's high on CJ Stroud right now, but I think they're just trying to get a feel of what Houston is thinking. Because, in my opinion, Houston didn't want that number one pick as much as we did. And that tells me that they're truly fine with whichever quarterback falls to them. Scott Fitter told fans back in November, Bryce Young is, they speak about him in the combine, the way they asked Thomas Brown about what he looks for in a quarterback. He said a point guard, a distributor. I mean, listen, first off, I love both of these quarterbacks. I think it's really close. But I think the traits that if you watch, listen, y'all need to pull up some Bryce Young film. We were watching some, me and Cody, last Sunday. Dude, this kid makes like some improvisation plays like they are just really, really special. His post and pre-snap recognition is awesome. And I just think his processing is on another level. I think these are a couple traits that you trade for. And yeah, they could fall in love with CJ Stroud, but I personally believe the pick is Bryce Young just based on what they've said about him in the past. And then coincidentally, traded up to one. I think this CJ Stroud and AR shit is a smokescreen to see if Houston is interested in those guys.
Look, he's
Cut him off.
No, he's got 2 more seconds, a little bit more.
What's up, C3? It's Anthony from Charlotte. Quick part 2. Just wanted to say 2 things. 1, don't believe any of the smoke. Like, as I said in my last call, all of that is BS, okay? In my opinion, this trade down shit is monotony. You don't trade for the number 1 pick and give up a cornerstone of your team to play these mind games. That's just crazy to me. And secondly, I do want to say I got my Panthers Central podcast channel up on YouTube as we speak. I will be posting more content as the weeks go by. If any of y'all would want to jump on and maybe live stream and look up some film at these prospects, I'd be more than happy than welcome you on because I just upgraded my StreamYard. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But don't believe these rumors. It is all a bunch of smokescreen. It is smokescreen season. I don't believe any of this. I think they have one guy in mind. There's no way you trade up to number 1 and play these lollygag games like, oh, should we pick this guy? Should we pick that guy? No. You don't trade away DJ Moore just to play these games. I don't see that. I really don't. Anthony from Charlotte, keep pounding.
Keep pounding. Fantastic call from Anthony. Starting his own channel. Go ahead, Greg. You want to say something?
I was gonna say I'm kind of with them. I think they know who they want, but one point he brought up was watching some Bryce Young film. I've been sold on CJ Stroud the whole time. Like, that's been the guy that I've been going for. I've been watching a lot of Bryce Young film today. This guy can sling the ball. Like, he's got a beautiful pass. The only thing I worry about is the size. Look, it's like I've said, Bryce Young's best year in college matched Baker Mayfield's best year in college.
Right.
And we complained last year about Baker Mayfield getting balls batted, and Bryce Young is smaller than Baker Mayfield. That's my only issue.
That's the thing. That's the thing that I think that people are like last year. People, even though I was a bit of a defender of Baker early on, like people were just shitting on him because he was short, right? Like he's getting balls batted, and they were talking about this is why you don't go after a quarterback that's short like this. And then now that Bryce Young is on the board, like it's a completely different scenario. It's very people have made their opinions, very clear that it wasn't really about Baker's height. It was about Baker being Baker. That was really what it was. That was all that it was.
And to be honest, Greg, I don't know that the batted balls thing is tied to height anymore. To me, Herbert has batted balls. Allen has batted balls.
Josh Allen led the league last year, I think. Yeah.
And to me, it's about Baker always had this dumb pump fake where he would always hesitate and wait a second too late to get the ball out of his hand. And the defensive linemen accommodated for that, and they would get their hands up, and he would drift in the pocket all the time. I mean, look, as someone who has also been looking at a lot of Bryce Young, as we all have, and we're definitely going to do an independent video on Bryce Young and CJ Stroud at some point on this channel to try and break down the differences between these two, because we owe it to ourselves, man. These are, the Panthers are at a crossroads in the history of their organization with these two quarterbacks, CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. But the thing that you'll notice about Bryce is that he's good at creating the throwing lanes from inside the pocket. He can step to the side in a moment and be able to see between the tackle and the guard and put the ball right where it needs to be. I was also someone that was very concerned about his height and weight. But the more you watch this film, I'm starting to compare him to Drew Brees more and more. Now, I think he's a more athletic version of Drew Brees, but the ability to know pre and post snap what's happening and to always have an answer for what the defense is doing, Bryce Young is exceptional at that. He has such elite mental processing when it comes to football IQ. Yeah, it's easy to understand why most outlets have Bryce Young as the number 1.
I feel like Lynn here is I like both, feel more comfortable with Stroud. I feel like you guys are going to just change my mind with every positive comment you make about one of these guys.
Right.
So this week I've been Stroud lately. Now I'm starting to be more Bryce Young. And then to next week I'll be Stroud again.
When are you going to be on Levis is the question.
No, I've zeroed in on these two guys. I am not going to be
Yeah.
wooed by AR.
Yeah.
I'm going to root for Anthony Richardson throughout his career. I hope he turns into anybody that compares yourself to my man, Cam. Not he doesn't compare himself, as people call him Baby Cam. And he does say that he looked at Cam's play too, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm going to be rooting for him. But at this moment, I'm not going to be wooed by the short skirt of the group. You know what I'm saying? Is like at this point we're trying to find a wife here. And that looks like a fun weekend. You know what I'm saying? We need a marriage right now.
Stability.
And the thing though is this is now the only reason I'm not confident. The only reason I lean more Stroud is because of the size. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
But then I start to think this. What if Stroud has more of the football makeup? You know, Stroud looks like he doesn't ever look excited. Have you ever seen like he looks like?
Dude, Tony, it's funny
and
you
I'm
mentioned
just
that.
like,
Joe Burrow.
Dude, I joked on Twitter that you almost never see a picture of Bryce Young. I mean, of CJ Stroud smiling.
it's like he's just never. Like at a birthday party he don't want to be at or something. Like, it's like he don't know whose birthday it is or what.
But dude, I mean, to me, he seems even keel. Like they talk about not getting too high, not getting too low, and he does seem like an even keel kind of person.
But you have to have like an aggressive alpha gene, I think, to be quarterback, to handle those receivers, to be a general. And I don't know, and maybe I'm reading too much into just his facial expressions. You know, it's just like his like it's just the way he looks is the only thing. You see him one time he was doing the band. He conducted
the marching band thing. Yeah.
And it was like, so then I'm like, man, maybe Bryce Young has got the it thing though. So now I'm back over, you know, it's like, it's the it thing. And then I watch some of these things and then everybody shows me this crap. And I tell you this, if CJ Stroud would have beat Georgia, he would be consensus #1 right now.
And you know,
one game. And he almost did. It was not him is the reason that he didn't beat Georgia.
It was not
it was
their
defense.
It was up, dude. Like he stepped up and he did and this is what I was talking about, I believe, last night. Like he stepped up in one of the biggest moments in his college career, and he delivered when he needed to deliver.
When people thought they were going to get waxed, maybe. You know what I'm saying?
Well, whether they thought that or whether they thought that he was just going to be he wasn't going to be athletic or anything. He proved a lot of people wrong in a lot of different ways. Like the dude is not a chump, and that's why I'm like at this point in time I'm optimistic for either of these two guys, but if I'm a bit concerned about the fact that Bryce Young has the size that he does, it's just so difficult for me to want to put that extra, like, you know what I mean? I don't want to put that extra draft capital into him for him to turn out to be another Baker Mayfield.
I also see all these videos of Bryce Young, everybody telling me he made this impossible throw and great read. And it's like, it feels like it's double coverage and he just got it over. Like, is that some of these throws, I don't know if they're great or if they're good.
Bryce or CJ?
For the Bryce Young is like, it's like, oh, they're like, look, window. And it's like, man, yeah, it was a window. But first of all, there's two guys there, right? There are two guys there. And the dude was beat by a foot. And you could say that it's either him being so precise or when we're in the NFL and that happens, that ain't going to work.
That was my biggest issue with Stroud. I'm sorry. Like when I was watching Stroud stuff the other day, I watched a lot of balls he threw that looked really good in college, but I was like, that's going to get picked off in the NFL. Like defensive backs are better than that in the NFL. That's going to get picked off in the NFL. Sorry.
We don't know. Cool. Other things to consider too, Cody, is Steve Sarkisian. No, not Steve Sarkisian. He's now the offensive coordinator for the Patriots. Bill O'Brien was Bryce Young's coordinator. So he had a pro football type offensive coordinator already. You know, so it's not only is he's when you say pre and post snap reads and stuff like that, he's been tutored by a guy who thinks like an NFL guy rather than a college guy.
And there were reports at the combine that that when teams would show him stuff, like even formations that he hasn't played against, he would give the correct answer on how to beat them. Bryce Young has a quarterback mind,
Yeah.
and again, the more I watch him, dude, I'm always honest about my evaluations, man. A lot of people say Russell Wilson. To me, that's kind of lazy, just because it's like he's more mobile. I think he shares more similar traits with his timing, arm talent, and understanding of defenses. To me, Drew Brees is the comparison that I'm seeing the most. He's not going to run around, but his mobility from the pocket, to me, makes him Drew Brees with wheels. Go ahead, Steve.
But my concern with that is, even if I want to put that comparison of Drew Brees, well, what do we remember about Drew Brees' early career is he was injury prone.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say prone. He had a shoulder injury.
Didn't he have more than one injury though? Like,
I think he had a big. I think he had a real like a throwing shoulder injury that really made people start to question him, or at least the Chargers. We'll have to look it up. I don't remember him being injury prone. I just remember that it was he was a free agent that came with risk because he had an injury to his actual throwing shoulder.
But there's also no guarantee that it doesn't go vice versa.
Right.
That we don't draft CJ Stroud and CJ Stroud ends up being injury prone, and then Bryce Young. Like
it's one defensive tackle falling on him, like full body weight, and they're just like, I'm gonna take the flag.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it looked like he would be like imprinted. I think that's what people are worried about, is like he would be like imprinted on the turf or in the grass.
Well, and
those are real concerns. It's a risk. It's not a concern. It's just risk assessment, right?
It's more risky for Bryce Young than it is for CJ Stroud. And it's not me just saying that because the reality is, if you're a smaller quarterback, you're more likely to get hurt because you don't have the ability to counter the power of some of these defensive tackles, defensive ends. You just don't have that ability to do that because you you weigh less. You're not going to have as much core strength. Like, I'm not saying it's not possible.
Your bone density is less, bro.
Right.
Like, you are a smaller human.
You're seeing this happen with Tua. Tua has been this is a question mark around him, his even coming into the league, his size, and whether that's going to impact him. Now you have Kyler Murray, unfortunately, after a few years having his injury now. Again, it's not impossible for a guy who's bigger to have an injury, but I think it's more likely for a smaller guy to have these types of issues.